This is Excel 2016, Module 3, Part 1. In this module, we will be working with basic formulas and functions. And in some of the later videos of this module, we will start getting into some more complex functions that are built into Excel. So in the beginning, what I want you to remember is your order of operations. So if that acronym does not help you remember those, you need to find a way to remember them. You also need to know that formulas and functions must both begin with an equal sign. So you can think of it as this cell is equal to, and then the formula follows. Functions are predefined in Excel, and so we will learn several of those throughout the semester. But anytime you're working with formulas, you do need to remember your order of operations when it comes to your math sequencing of parentheses, followed by exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. We are going to be working with a file that is downloaded from your Q drive, and it is called Wingate. So it is in the Excel 3 module folder, and I need to enable editing again because this is a security feature when you download something from the internet. All right, we're going to start out on our yield worksheet. So you want to go to the yield worksheet. We're going to enter some basic facts that will be used in our formulas. So we're going to go into B4. We're going to say that this farm has 137 total acres devoted to their sweet corn. And then in B6, we're going to use 6 rows. B8 is 2.5. B9 is 294. So again, these are some basic facts that are going to be used in our calculations. They've included with this worksheet an explanation of formulas. So you can see here some of the formulas that are going to be used throughout this module, and they give us some reasoning behind them and how the formulas work. So if you're interested in that, you can review that information. So the next thing we're going to do is back on our yield worksheet. We're going to start out in B10. And we're going to be entering a formula that calculates the area of their sample plot. So in order to calculate the area, we need to use a formula that takes the number 2, so we're going to say equals 2, and it multiplies it by the number of rows, which is in B7. Then they also have to multiply that by the width of the rows, which is in B8. And they multiply by the length of the rows, which is in B9. And then they are going to divide by the square feet in an acre, which is over here in E7. Now, in this particular equation, order of operations does not require us to use any kind of parentheses because everything has an equal priority, multiplication and division. So we're good, and we can hit enter. So that tells us that their sample plot is going to be 0.2 acres. Now what we want to do here is we want to do some number formatting. So we're going to go up to the decrease decimals, and we're going to decrease the number of decimals until there are only 2. So that just rounds our number off a little bit to make it easier to interpret. And now we're going to enter some additional facts. So in B13, the sample weight is 1922. In 14, we have a moisture content of 16.3%. And then in B15, we're going to calculate the dry weight. Now the dry weight is computed by taking 1 minus the moisture and multiplying that by the total weight. So we would want to use parentheses to force the subtraction to happen prior to the multiplication. So we're going to say it's equal to the total weight, which is in B13, and that is multiplied by, then we will use the parentheses to force this to happen first, 1 minus the moisture content in B14, and that gives us the dry weight. Now, if we did not have the parentheses, I'm going to take them out so you can see how this would work. We get a very different answer. So just be aware that those parentheses are definitely important. What they do based on the order of operations is they force this subtraction to happen first, and then the answer from that is multiplied by B13. We do not want this to be formatted as a percentage. And so we're going to decrease that decimals. The next thing we have to do is calculate the market weight. Now the market weight is going to be calculated by taking the dry weight and subtracting 1 minus the standard corn moisture content, which is stored in E8. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the dry weight that we calculated, so equals B15, and we're going to divide that by, and again, it is important that we use the parentheses because this subtraction must happen before the division. So we want 1 minus E8, that standard corn moisture content. Close our parentheses there, and now that gives us the market weight. So we are going to again decrease the decimal places. So that there are no decimals. So far we have been pretty much using some basic formulas, only having to pay attention to the order of operations. So we're going to continue with that for a few more. So now we are entering the value in B19, sample bushels. We're going to say that that is equal to our market weight divided by the pounds of corn per bushel, which is in E9. We again want to format this formula so that there are no decimal places. And you'll notice when I do that, it rounds up. So it does round as you're adjusting the decimal places. The next thing is we want to calculate the bushels per acre. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take B19, the sample number of bushels, and divide it by B10, which is our number of acres. And you can see that we're getting about 168 bushels per acre. We are going to again adjust that so that there are 0 decimal places. And then our total yield is going to take the value equals the number of bushels per acre calculated in B20, and we're going to multiply that by the number of acres that we have for corn stored in B4. And with this particular number here for the market weight, we're going to do a comma format, no decimals, and the same way here on B21, we'll choose comma, no decimals. And then this last formula that we have right now is to calculate the market revenue. So what we're going to do is take the total yield in bushels and that is stored in B21, multiply that by the market price per bushel in E10. And since these formulas are pretty straightforward, there's only one multiplication or division function in them, we really don't have to worry about parentheses or the order of operations on many of these. We are going to format this one in an accounting style since it is dollar amounts. And you can see that we have $88,000 plus as our projected market revenue. Now you will remember that we had some cell styles that we used in Module 2. So we're going to utilize those cell styles again. So we're going to click on some non-adjacent ranges. So we're going to start with B4. Then we're going to choose B7 through 9. And B13 and 14. And then E7 through 10. Once we have all those selected, you're going to go to your cell style gallery. And we are going to choose the input cell style. Those are all cells that we have to input values in. And so that's why they're formatted with that particular style. The next one we're going to do are the calculations. So we're going to choose B10. Again, we have to use the control key for non-adjacent ranges. We have B15 and 16. Then we also have B19 through 21 and B23. Again, release the control and the mouse. And then in the cell gallery, we're going to choose calculation as our cell style. And then we'll click on another cell just to remove that highlighting. And you can see that all of the places we have to enter data are highlighted with a fill of orange and a grayish text. And the others are the calculations that we shouldn't change are highlighted grayish with an orange text. So now we're going to start working with a few functions. At this point, everything we've done were formulas, and the biggest concern we had with some of these was to use the parentheses to force the order of operations to happen the way we needed it to. Now we're going to go over to our yield history. Before we go any further, I like to save my work. Remember to save periodically because your work is being done in RAM. And remember that is volatile, so if the power turns off, you could lose some of your work. So on the yield history, I want you to go to B5. And we're going to use the count function to count the number of years that we have been entering information. So you're going to start by choosing count numbers. Or you could type equal count and open a parenthesis. And then we're going to click on E to select the function, the entire column. And you can see that 22 of those years have yields in them. 2006 did not have a yield because they did not harvest a crop that year. Well, a reliable estimate, it says, is not available. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to average the corn yield. However, we do need that information to be rounded. So we're going to combine those two functions. We're going to start out with equals and then type round. That will round off the formula. Then we're going to type in average. Again, opening the parentheses, and we're going to click on column E. When we close the parentheses, when we close the parentheses for the average function, then we have to do a comma and tell it where we want to round it off to. We want no decimal places, so we're going to round it to 0 decimal places. And close the round function. And we get 170. So let's go back and look at that function again. You have round, that's the first function. And when you're looking at round, it says it's going to round a number to a certain number of digits. So it wants to know how many digits are going to be after the decimal. We said don't round a number, calculate an average of all the numbers in column E, and then that answer we want you to round off. So anytime you open a parenthesis for a function, you must close it. And if you look here, Excel tries to color code those opening and closing parentheses to help you keep track of that. To calculate the minimum, we can type in, again, we could do equals and type in a formula. We could come over here and choose minimum, or we could go to the formula bar and we could try to find it there. So under more functions, under statistical, we could scroll down and locate min for the smallest. And then it wants to know where the minimum numbers are located, and we want them to use all of those in column E. Obviously, to do the maximum, we could use the same technique, or under the arrow for auto sum, we could type max, tell it column E, and it would bring back the maximum value it found there. So there are a lot of ways that you can find formulas. The auto sum button here on your formulas tab is the exact same auto sum button that you see here on your home tab. On the formulas tab, in addition to the auto sum button, you have one that says recently used. So if you have formulas that you've recently worked with, it will have those listed here. And you can also find them by clicking on the appropriate buttons to locate them. Another way that we can locate formulas is using this Insert Function button. So if I click on that with B9 highlighted, I can come in here and say, you know what, I'm not sure what it's called, but I know it brings me the middle value. And then I click Go, and it comes up with a list of options for me to choose from. So it will help you find the function if you're not sure which button to look under. So we are going to choose median. And again, we want to tell it that we are going to choose column E. And it comes back with the middle value for column E, or the median. So as you can see, there are a lot of functions. You can see if you click on the different buttons that there are many functions that you can choose from when working with Excel. Honestly, so many of them that you probably will not use many, because you see many of these options have scrolling bars because there's so many. Okay. That is the end of video 1. So again, the things that you do need to remember. For example, here, paying attention to that order of operations when you're working with formulas. We had to put this in parentheses to force this Excel to do this part of the equation first. Normally, multiplication would be done prior to subtraction, but since we have it in parentheses, that forces it to be done first. So you want to remember that order of operations, and you want to remember the various functions that you use. We could have, instead of doing column E, we could have specified a specific range. However, the nice thing about doing all of column E is that next year when I add 2018 and put in a value, that value will automatically be included in all of my formulas because I don't have a specific range of E5 through E27. If I had that in my formulas and I added data in E28, I would have to go in and change every formula. But by setting them up as all of column E, then any data that I enter in column E in the future will automatically update my formulas as well. Let's go ahead and save our work. Video 2 is going to be doing some what-if analysis, so we can look at how you can analyze the information a little more. And then we will continue on with some more advanced functions.